It's rare that you see a show so instantly connect with its audience and strikes a chord with a generation. And from its rave reviews and growing fandom, it's showing itself to not only be one of the best shows of 2020, but very well a classic in the making. And that show is Duncan Trussel and Pendleton Ward's The Midnight Gospel. Released to the world on Netflix on April 20th, 2020, the 420 of all 420s, the release of the show is very much meant to be seen as a celebration of creator Duncan Trussel's birthday and nothing else. The show comes from episodes of Duncan Trussel's podcast, The Duncan Trussel Family Hour, and combines them with a mind-bending animation of Pendleton Ward and Titmouse Studios. The show takes Duncan's podcast and brings it to life in a way that only animation can. And it's... good! Well, it's a lot. The show is about Clancy Gilroy, a proverbial burnout who lives in the chromatic ribbon in interdimensional space. Here he uses a used universe simulator to visit other worlds so that he may interview subjects for his podcast.
It goes into space.
Meanwhile, each one of these worlds are effectively undergoing an apocalypse to which Clancy still interviews them.
Are you worried because it seems like we're all about to die?
The show is about conversations in dying worlds, and given where the world is this year, it's a little too on the nose, but at the same time it can be exactly what you want to hear. It dances that fine line between profound and just dumb fun. There's a lot you can take away from it, and a big part of the show is learning to infer meaning from less than clear sources. On the surface, it's about Clancy learning not to ignore the world around him in his quest to understand the universe, but also, the depths of these worlds are a reflection of the themes taken too far. A conversation about drug use turning us into brainless zombies is literally underscored by a zombie apocalypse. A talk about how we are fueled by our fear of death is set in a meat-powered society going through a revolution. Even that cool guy with a boat who may talk about astral projection and moving beyond the physical realm uses such a ritual to settle a fight.
What the fuck, Daryl? I was asleep.
But also still, it's kind of a commentary on being inspired by other worlds and what it's like to make content on the internet. The bad guys are literally copyright infringement. I think that's hilarious.
We're a cop! I am a cop!
The Midnight Gospel is rife with spiritual, psychedelic, Buddhist, occult, and magical imagery. And in an internet culture that loves to break down and decode hidden meanings, Easter eggs, and the philosophy behind just about everything, this show invites that level of introspection. It's the kind of experience that will leave you asking,
Are you a metaphor?
And perhaps it is a yes and a no. This is a show that respects the intelligence of its audience, and it does that by acknowledging that there are multiple interpretations that can be taken from the show.
If you want to learn about how to do magic or lineages in Buddhism or whatever, great. But if you want to get blasted and melt into your couch and just watch pretty colors while hippies yap, you could do that too.
There's a lot that can be broken down and analyzed, but there's an underlying theme that I think propels this show forward, not only as an achievement in animation, but also a great lesson in storytelling, and that is the spirit of collaboration.
What?
It's no secret that productions take time and people, and in that regard, The Midnight Gospel is no different. However, it is part of a growing shift in Western animation targeted towards more mature audiences. We're seeing a greater acceptance of animation, we're seeing ideas push the envelope in ways that only animation can, and a great deal of that is because of the collaborative space that animation creates.
I don't think people out in the world recognize what a bizarre ecosystem is bringing them all the cartoons and animation that they love.
So much of this show is about embracing that aspect of working together and remixing ideas. And I think a great deal of that credit goes to Pendleton Ward, known for bringing in artists from independent comics and unconventional sources, a good example being art director Jesse Moynihan, whose own work is a clear influence on the show. When you watch his work, you see he isn't afraid to let his animators have their fun. Throughout his work, you'll see little gags and visual jokes peppered in, jokes that don't really work written. He's said to prefer writing scripts while the storyboards are being drawn. This lets ideas bounce around and develop organically.
When I was boarding the pool scene, Pendleton just threw a gif over at me of he just drew a dog and the pool balls were sliding under the dog. And I was like, whoa, this dog is cool. And so when they had to escape, I was like, what if Dr. Drew climbs on the dog and all the pool balls come out from under it and it makes all the zombies slip, and then, oh, this dog's cool, let's bring the dog back. And then the dog ended up being in every episode, and it's just based off of one drawing, one character building thing.
But it's based off of one drawing and so many different people encountering that and making slight decisions, big decisions, little commenting, whatever. This to me has been the psychedelic joy of the Midnight Gospel, which is like, I'll say, like, I love from a ego-driven level. It's like, yeah, me and Penn. Oh yeah, we made this show. But it's like, what do we even? That's a lie. Like, no, we didn't. Who the fuck made this?
Pendleton Ward is the kind of creator who trusts the people he works with. We love thinking of directors as singular geniuses, but it's refreshing to hear about one who genuinely values the people around him.
I think that Evan was talking to Penn at one point, and Evan was, because Evan's a huge fan of Penn, has always been, and he was like, what is it? How does it feel to have this show that everybody loves? And Penn was just like, I don't feel like it's my show. I feel like I just made a show with my friends.
Art is innately collaborative and innately a product of its own influences. The show itself acknowledges that it is based off a podcast, often blurring the lines between Clancy and Duncan.
See Duncan.
Hi, Duncan.
Duncan? Who's Duncan? Clancy.
Oh, okay.
This all serves as a reminder that the ideas being discussed are not insular to the show. The show is about someone traveling to other worlds and repurposing the experiences for himself. There's an understanding from the creators that a work will have a life outside of its release. Even the design of Clancy reflects that.
Here's how cool Penn is. One of the things you're saying is, people are probably going to want to cosplay Clancy at Comic-Con and stuff, and he doesn't have anything to carry anything. So let's give him like a bag. And
That's
so
hilarious.
Clancy ended up with this cool bag that he carries around.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
So much of the show has been an extension of Duncan and Pendleton's own goals as artists to create a sense of community. Pendleton does that with a body of work that continually celebrates collaboration, and Duncan does that with the Family Hour, which isn't just limited to his podcast. It also includes group meditations, a book club, and a family gathering. The Midnight Gospel is an extension of that idea of creating connections through communication. Each episode comes from editing down larger, very honest conversations from people who are experts in their fields. And when we hear topics like these discussed in conversation rather than explained at us, they become more approachable, more familiar. But that's not to say that this is where to learn them. Instead, it is a reminder that it's not going to be summed up in a single comment or reading. They are but fractals of greater ideas. Remember, each episode is based off conversations with real people who are available to learn from. Want to hear more from Glasses Man? Check out Dr. Drew's work. Yes, that Dr. Drew. Interested in all things death and dying? Caitlin Dowdy is an incredible resource. Want to learn more about meditation and magic? Jason knows exactly where you're coming from. Through animation, these conversations are reborn with new life, and that is none more true than with the final episode, a conversation with Duncan's late mother.
Well, I love you very much, obviously.
And I don't care who you are, that's special. I don't see this show as trying to be a definitive take on any spiritual practice, but an introduction to various paths that can be taken, which can do a lot of good for you if you let them.
I don't want to give them anything to take away from it. For me, the title of the show sums up what the show means to me, but that's just what it means to me. Gospel means good news, and a lot of times midnight gets associated with darkness or fear or panic or I think anybody out there who's been through any kind of traumatic experience has probably during that time had an encounter with something that isn't scary. To me, I think that's what moments of catastrophe offer us, is a chance where a window opens for a second through which a very beautiful light shines. And that's the good news, I think. The good news is that no matter how turbulent stuff gets, I think there's always some little beam of light, some mote of love inside of there for us to find that can carry us through even the roughest moments. Now, that's my own opinion about the show. I want people to draw their own opinions regarding what it means to them, but that's how I feel about it.
And in a time where we all can't help but feel alone, with only a screen to connect us to the world, it's shows like these that bring us together. And I think it's important to remember that they wouldn't be possible alone. It's not the work of a single person, but a community of people bouncing ideas off each other. It is a give, it is a take. And that is the Midnight Gospel.
I am not alive, but I never die.